Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe and like. And please visit us at barrykibrick.com, where you'll see all the ways that you can become a patron of our mission and help us continue to build a community of seekers who quest for knowledge, information, and most importantly, wisdom. New Orleans is known as one of the entertainment capitals of the world. But for years, Pontchartrain Beach was the entertainment capital of New Orleans. And my guest, Bryan Batt, the talented, award-winning actor from Mad Men and 12 Years a Slave, plus numerous Broadway hits, he knows this intimately, for he was the grandson of the man who started it all and even gave Elvis Presley one of his first gigs.
Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick is made possible in part by Patreon. Patreon helps creators build and run membership businesses, from podcasters to writers, musicians, artists, and more, with tools that allow their fans to become patrons. More information is available at patreon.com. And Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick is also made possible by the following contributors. A complete list of funders is available at barrykibrick.com.
Bryan, it is so good to see you again. From the first time we met, my wife and I have always said, is not Bryan the handsomest guy we ever had on the show? And it's the truth, Bryan. You are the most adorable inside and out. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Barry, it's a pleasure. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here. You are my favorite talk show and interviewer, especially about books. It's such a warm environment, and I love that you read the book.
Well, more than read it, I'll tell you, in your case, I think I'm going to find stuff out that even you put in there, but I don't think you're aware of how deep it really is. So we're going to start, first of all, we're going to start with getting the correct pronunciation, and this could either be a running gag or I get it right, and you gave me that idea. Sure. Pontchartrain Beach. Pontchartrain Beach. And this, as I introduced it, as I said, New Orleans was one of the capitals of our entertainment world, and Pontchartrain Beach is one of the capitals of entertainment in New Orleans.
In New Orleans, it's a beloved amusement park that my grandfather founded in 1928. It closed in '83, but in that time it became this iconic wonderful amusement park, deco-looking amusement park in the whole region. In fact, many years later, in the 90s, I was doing a workshop of a Broadway show in New York, and the assistant choreographer came up to me and was like, "You're Bryan Batt, the Batt family, Pontchartrain Beach, the Zephyr, the roller coaster. It was built by the Vettel brothers." Started telling me all these facts about the roller coaster that had been torn down several years prior. And it was amazing that he knew all this information about my grandfather's wonderful business.
Well, when I got the book, I said, I have a national show. Why am I going to only try to please to a group of people in New Orleans? But I couldn't help it. As I'm looking at every picture, it reminds me just as Rockaway Beach, Coney Island, Wildwood in New Jersey, Great Adventure. Everyone knows this experience of going down the boardwalk on the Midway and having that form of entertainment. So this is universally something that people are going to really resonate with.
Thank you. That is what my co-author Katie Danos and I tried to capture. Because we all grew up most of us, going to or visiting the neighborhood or the local amusement park in the area. It's kind of almost a completely lost form of entertainment. There are very few family-owned amusement parks. Many people ask, why did it close? And many amusement parks around that time frame closed, and for numerous reasons. The Pontchartrain Beach was closing mainly because the lake had become polluted in New Orleans. You could not swim anymore in the lake. Also, the huge mega parks were kind of taking over. And then there's also, litigious, a lot of that was, remember in the late 70s, early 80s, everybody was suing everybody. You'd stub your toe. I mean, now, there's no way you could even begin to insure some of these rides. So it was just this wonderful, great family entertainment that my grandfather just saw a need and filled it, and quite beautifully.
Well, I want to talk a lot about your grandpa and you, because your philosophy and his seem to almost echo each other. And in fact, the start of it is, I believe in magic, and my grandfather, Harry Batt Sr., did too. This book, and then even Katie mentions that magic is that little elixir that just, you feel it, you can't really put your finger on it, and Harry, your co-author, and by the way, the entire Batt family, you can tell, had to sense that magic.
It was, and I think it was infectious. My grandfather was this larger-than-life character. I only knew him for 14 years. He passed away when I was 14, but writing this book, it was almost like he became alive again and was over my shoulder. And I discovered so much about him. He had such an entrepreneurial spirit. You know, he put his life on the line to build this. And at a time when I guess it was, I don't think having success is ever easy. I think everything worthwhile requires dedication and hard work. But when you love what you're doing, it really isn't work. And my grandmother said, you know, that he was so passionate about this. This was his life, and creating a family entertainment for the city. Because New Orleans has a lot, but at this time they had no family entertainment.
And you also make it clear he wasn't just an inspiration to you, but to almost anyone he came in contact with.
You know, it was fascinating. We now with social media, it's kind of great. It is great in many ways, and some not so. But we put it out there on websites, on Facebook pages, looking for stories from former workers and people that were employed at Pontchartrain Beach. Also, just great stories, some locals or people that moved away that had great stories. Everyone was positive. Yeah. There was not one negative. Some of the wonderful stories, like people put themselves through college by working there. It's just a different time, but a wonderful memory.
Another thing he shares with you and others is, and it's something that, it's a word that I wish I could always embody in my own life: exuberance and timeless joy.
Well, there's something about a roller coaster. You know, there's something about that thrill, you know, that you can only, everyone pretty much remembers the first time they rode a roller coaster or the merry-go-round or their favorite ride growing up. And I think I just equated roller coasters with life. It's a great, you know, they're very similar. There's a lot of ups and downs and fast and slows, and it starts and it's gonna end. So you might as well throw your hands up and enjoy the ride, you know?
You know, you joked, you said about how the family had to get into the business. And there's a little line in here, you say, not only did the family get in the business, but you treated everybody like family. They all had to work hard. So when I first read it, I go, you treated everyone like family. I'm thinking, oh, it's all love and kisses. No, it was you had to work hard.
You know, I really wanted to go into the family business. I loved the amusement park. I would design rides and have, you know, haunted houses in our garage at Halloween. It was in my blood. And unfortunately, as I said, that the decline in that form of entertainment was right when I was coming of age. And so I kind of went where my grandfather really wanted to go. My grandfather really wanted to be an actor.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because, you know, we're talking about Grandpa, but there's also Grandma. And there's a great little, well, let's,
she was nobody's fool.
I want to tread lightly on this, because you do, but it's important, I think. Grandma taught you how to sew, and you added this: maybe they knew something I didn't know just yet, or was willing to admit. And then she says, my grandson Bryan may be that way. And you then say, a flair for the theatrical. But they obviously knew that you were gay.
Yeah, later on in my life.
Before you did. I know that sounds funny.
They could tell. I think they knew. But I don't think they knew it was definitely gay, but they knew it's like, you know, this boy likes to kick his legs too much. And high. But later on, when I was in college, and my grandmother her health was failing. Later on, my mother told me that one of her sitters said she had confided in one of her sitters. She goes, I think my grandson Bryan might be that way. And if John Batt, his father, doesn't let him go to New York and become an actor like he wants to be, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to help him out. And she passed away right before I moved away, but she knew. And, she was cool with it. And I thought, wow, my other grandmother, both of them, they were cool. They're from this generation where a lot of people would like, no, that can't happen. But they loved us. And it's a perfectly normal, good kid who wanted to be an actor and happened to be gay. And as my grandmother said, you can't help who you love.
And there's an interesting thing with your dad. And by the way, when they see the picture, you look like
it's
your
frightening.
dad. It
I
is
look
frightening.
just like my father, and internally I am my mother.
It's really wild.
Yeah.
But I'm going to read this because your relationship with your dad, there's no mistaking when you see the photo, as I said, that you're related. But you can tell that there might have been a little twinge in his heart, which is why Grandma said what she said. But you also let us know that through the park, he found a way to nurture you. So you give a lot of credit to Dad, even if you weren't on the quite same wavelength.
Yeah.
He did let you expound your creativity and show yourself as you were.
I think also because he was just a good soul too. I think, everyone's a product of their environment and how they were raised. But he must have looked at me and go, what am I going to do with this kid? And we did bond over the park and the business and that kind of entertainment. As I do believe, like my grandmother said, you can't help who you love. You also can't help who you are, who you gravitate towards. I think it's a chemical thing. It's how we're wired. And my father was really sports and good old guy stuff. And so he and my brother were like that. But this is the one aspect that really bonded us. And another one, and I had the pleasure of working with Mel Brooks. His son wrote this wonderful film that I did called Sam, and Mel came on, and I got to meet Mel and talk to him. And there was Mel Brooks movies. My father and I would always go see the Mel Brooks movies together.
Oh, well, you can tell there is that love, even if there is that there may be underlying tension, whatever it might be, but you can tell.
We're just very different. And you can love someone who's very different.
And you know what? It goes back to the beach, because there you all had shared identities. And there is something about that magic going on that transcended life itself.
Yeah, and it was such a big thing. I grew up my parents never said, oh, you're special, but other people thought I was something because my family owned Pontchartrain Beach. And it became almost a litmus test to find out who my real friends were. Did they want to be, were they attracted just to be friends with me, or did they just want to go to Pontchartrain Beach, go to the amusement park? And I was kind of like, if they wanted to come over to my house and climb trees and play tag and do that stuff, regular kid stuff, they made the cut. But just, instinctively, I weeded the ones out that were kind of like just wanted to go to the amusement park.
But there's also, as I said, how everyone will identify with this. Pontchartrain Beach is a microcosm of our society, just like every one of those other beaches. But you bring it out here where you can see it's not just memory lane.
No.
It's really a feeling that still exists within all of us. And when we gather together, which is what this place was, the humanity of us all shines.
We all, remember our first kiss, or our first time trying to sneak a kiss in the haunted house, or walking down the Midway and the smell of hot dogs and cotton candy and, the fireworks going off. I mean, and it also harkens back to a time where, you go there with your friends and somehow you find your friends or you meet some people, and we didn't have cell phones or anything, meet your parents at a certain time. And what was great about it is that generational thing, that people, we found pictures, from all the way back from the 20s all the way through the 80s.
Oh, and by the way, I have to say, just looking at them, and again,
Elvis.
They remind you. Oh, whoa! Don't blow my next line. I'm telling you, hold on, just stop. I'm going there.
Take back Elvis.
Take back Elvis, please. All right, let's
Silly
do it already.
Okay.
I got to do it.
Sorry.
We'll stop. We won't even stop. We'll go with it.
Okay.
I'm going to read the line. I have a hunch about this Elvis kid. You guys brought on Elvis, and I'm going to show the picture. He was playing second bill to, I think, Miss Hillbilly.
Yeah, it was Miss Hill. It was one of those country
jamborees.
Yeah. And it was months before, I think Hound Dog was his first hit.
Right, this was months before.
Months before. And he, played the stage at the beach, which many artists did. I mean, my grandfather it was free admission, and the pack play. Everyone would go see whoever was the latest person performing. And he wowed the crowd. And then months later, within a year, he was like skyrocketed to stardom and came back the next year and they had this big party for him. And, but it was amazing. But my grandfather really, they were friendly. And he, when all that controversy started, I remember talking to my grandfather about it, they said, it's devil music and he's shaking his hips and blah, blah, blah. I said, he's a fine young man. But he knew he had something. He could spot this man is going places.
Well, what Grandpa did is not only spot that talent, but and you write these words, he captured the essence of optimism. And that is what could be almost more important in life than being able to capture the essence of optimism.
He always was looking for the newest, most exciting. He wanted everyone to be happy and joyous, but he was a very optimistic and so supportive. He was very proud of his family and his accomplishments. He wasn't. I can't say I remember him being a very humbled person.
Well, wait. You almost can't be. You almost can't be if you're doing this.
He wasn't. He wasn't a braggart or
Right.
anything like that. But I think there is a definite quality of someone. I'm very self-deprecating and oh no, but he was very proud of what he did, as well he should be, and protected his interest with the park. But generations, it's wild that still today people are still talking about it.
I saw Harry Connick in the book.
Yes, Harry Connick, Michael Lewis, Walter Isaacson.
Oh,
went there.
Who wrote Albert and everybody.
We all went to the same high school too. Michael Lewis, Walter Isaacson, and I went to the same high school.
I want to talk one more thing because it's a large section of the book, and it's what you call My Time Madness, Valley High, and it's the Polynesian pop culture that comes in. And that really begins to almost dominate the action going on in the Midway. It becomes so popular that it was amazing. And you see it, and you can just see the tikis and the whole kit and caboodle.
And we have some of the recipes of the great drinks in the book. And literally, that place became, here is my grandfather, always looking for something new and fresh in a city that's mired, I want to say mired, but it's very traditional in its French cuisine and its Creole cuisine, Antoine's, Brennan's, all these kind of restaurants. And he opens a Polynesian restaurant on the lake, right when this was hitting, the whole craze was hitting in the 50s. And it lasted through the 80s. He was pretty out there and pretty like, what is the next great thing? Everything he wanted around him was new. He liked like the Zephyr was the roller coaster that he had seen at the 1933 World's Fair. And the train there was called the Zephyr, and it was a big inspiration. But all through his life, he was asking me when I was a little kid, like, what do you listen to? What do you like? What's fun for you? He would ask, and I remember he founded the New Orleans Recreational Department. He's one of the founders, which he gave back to the community so much. But he realized that everyone, he was, had to go work at a young age, but he believed every child should have some form of recreation, whether sports or theater, because I did shows for Nord Theater when I was a little boy, not knowing that my grandfather had anything to do with it. And one time he had to pick me up. My mom and dad were out of town and they couldn't pick me up. And here's my grandfather in his Cadillac and parks and comes into the theater. And what I loved about it was my early introduction, because it was, I want to say 72 or 73, my first show, Deep South. And just remember the dates there. So it's not too long after civil rights. And one of the lovely actresses was this tall, beautiful African-American young lady, and she had her hair pulled up in this knot. And my grandfather would talk to anybody. You know, he goes, young lady, that is the most beautiful hairdo. He said, what do you call it? And she goes, it's an African knot. He goes, I've been to Africa many times and I've never seen that hairdo. And they had this fantastic rapport. And it was like, I was just amazed at him that he could, because he genuinely was inquisitive and wanted to learn about everything, he could talk to anybody.
Well, you talk about, in fact, talking to anybody. He actually says those exact words to you when apparently, I guess, he was driving with you, and I think maybe it was your brother, I don't remember.
Yes, yeah.
And you say he got lost.
Got lost.
And he, of course, there's no GPS or anything like that, so he's got to ask.
Backed up on the highway, though, by the way. Backed up and then took the exit. I'm like, we're going to die.
Okay.
We are going to
then,
die.
I guess you're in a bad neighborhood.
Whew, yes.
Okay.
And outside of Philly, yeah.
And he says, he goes over to, as guys like you, in the book you describe it as guys straight out of Kojak, and
Yes.
I guess not on the police force from I read it.
Exactly, right.
And he just goes up and asks for directions,
Yeah.
and everyone in the car is like
Yeah.
shaking like a leaf. And he turns to you and he says, kids, when you can talk to anybody, that's going to save you. I
Yes.
mean, I'm paraphrasing. I didn't use the exact
but
words.
I don't know.
but
I can't remember the exact.
He
but it's true.
I remember that.
And he goes, "It's just people. Everyone's just people. You know, you treat everyone with respect. If you want to be treated with respect, you just treat everyone else with respect." Yeah.
There's one little sense of a twinge I did get in something you wrote.
Sure.
And that was, and you kind
Is
of.
it a good one or a bad one?
Well, I think it's. You decide.
Okay.
All right. What it was you mentioned it before about when you had to find out who your real friends were, but there was also an element where you write about sometimes you wish. I'll read it.
Sure.
You know, sometimes I longed for a more typical life. A life where the father didn't work every day and night during the summer. The mother could bake a cake and a poo-poo platter wasn't the equivalent of a grilled cheese. So I don't think that was really bad, but I just got a sense that there was...
Right. As a child, I felt that. Not as an adult looking back. But I remember longing for that. I think kid once at that time wanted a Brady Bunch, more of a Brady Bunch life. And my dad worked. I mean, during the summer, we never took a summer vacation. He worked, I think, from 10 in the morning to 1 o'clock in the morning. And I never practically saw him unless I went to the office or went to the beach to see him. It was just, that's how it was. You know, my mother was never a cook. She would call the Polynesian restaurant, the Bali High. And like I said in the book, I was like, I had an egg roll before I had a bottle, you know.
But, you know, other thing that your granddad did, and by the way, let's go back. It's not just your granddad. It's then your uncle and your
my
dad.
father took over the business.
You know, took over, and you guys were always working it as well. But I thought what was really cool was I never realized how many beauties, quote, on the beach. You had beauty pageants, and you were not sexist because you had male bodybuilders and you had female models, but the beauty contest I was as big a chapter almost as the Polynesian restaurant.
Oh, yes.
It was amazing.
And my grandfather, being the entrepreneur and smart man that he was, he started like neighborhood pageants. So there was Miss Maroney, Miss Bywater, Miss Uptown, Miss Mid-City, and it would bring all the people from that area to for the crowning of Miss New Orleans. Dorothy Lamour was crowned on the beach stage as Miss New Orleans.
You know, and then when you end the book with a very poignant little story, and that is when you ask your brothers, your cousins, and everything, what would they really want? And I'm not going to look down and read it. I'm just going to paraphrase it. What they really would want is one more chance to walk with their dads on the midway of Pontchartrain Beach.
It really was magical. It was a magical way to grow up. And I hope the book portrays that and people, and I share that with them in a way that everyone can relate to, because it was special.
It really is. And my friend, you are very special.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Barry.
you, Brian.
Such a
It's always a
pleasure.
pleasure seeing you. Still ranking handsomest guy on the chair there, okay? And thank you all for joining us. Now, sometimes a trip down memory lane can spark a thought about the future. So if you have any thoughts about the past, present, or future, feel free to email me at barry@barrykibrick.com and I promise to personally reply to every email and do the best to answer any questions. But before we go, I'd like to leave you with these few more words from Pontchartrain Beach. For everyone who reads this story, we hope that the spirit of Harry and Marguerite's ingenuity and pluck goes far beyond the confines of any one place and time, and we consider new obstacles as splendid opportunities. I'm Barry Kibrick. Between place and time, we all face many obstacles. Let's keep their spirit alive and turn them all into splendid opportunities. Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you, Barry.
My pleasure.
Always
sir.
a pleasure to be.
Yeah.
To become part of the Between the Lines family, go to barrykibrick.com. There you can join our book club, participate in Q&As, catch past episodes, listen to Barry's podcasts, read his blog, and experience exclusive online features, all at barrykibrick.com. Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick is made possible in part by Patreon. Patreon helps creators build and run membership businesses, from podcasters to writers, musicians, artists, and more, with tools that allow their fans to become patrons. More information is available at patreon.com. And Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick is also made possible by the following contributors. A complete list of funders is available at barrykibrick.com.